Hey there, friends. My name is Sarah Mastriani-Levi, and I'm here for another healing conversation tonight. Originally, when William and I chatted about this, we thought we were going to have a conversation called Healing Through Thankfulness. But as we kind of spoke through it, we both talked about some things that have shifted and changed within us, and that we're no longer willing to take part in things that are demanded of us or expected or required of us to be called thanksgiving or thankfulness. That if we only show up in those ways, then that's the way that we show that we're thankful. We think that there's a lot of other amazing ways that we can show up and be thankful. But even more importantly, we feel that there's something to be said about having honest thankfulness. And in order to have honest thankfulness, we need to both be able to look at the shadow and the light of thankfulness. And I'd like to invite William Brown to join me, and we'll dive into this really interesting conversation that we'd love to have. Hey there.
Hello, how are you?
I'm excited about this conversation as we kind of shifted our original topic. At first I was like, oh, this is kind of cliche. And then I was like, when we had the little 10-minute talk that we had before, now suddenly it's like, oh, this is going to be a different conversation.
Yeah. I think, I don't know, with, they talk about the moon and Jupiter and Mercury, all the different planetary awakening time that we're in. But there's a feeling within me that with this awareness that I have right now, there is no need to kind of act as if I don't know, right? Act as if that the things that I've been told around Thanksgiving or thankfulness or being grateful weren't the whole story. And so if I really want to access power, because I think there is so much power to thankfulness and gratefulness, but I think I'll speak for myself, I don't achieve it because it's not honest. It's not, it's like, when you say, the thing is not really the thing, right? But we'll have conversations all day about the thing, but not the thing, right?
Right, not the real thing.
Yeah. Right. And and I think this is what this moment, this opportunity is calling for us to do.
So as I was kind of journaling and sitting with this idea, and sometimes I write out blessings of things that if I'm in a group and I'm asked to speak, or if just my own personal blessing for something that's going on. And as I was writing out kind of like this, I don't know, we're just going to call it just this speaking around thankfulness, gratitude, and all of that, there was a definitive feeling that I actually want to have a blessing of forgiveness. In as much as I wanted to have a blessing of thankfulness. That the story, the very whitewashed story that I grew up with, perhaps you grew up with too.
Absolutely.
Of
sharing of maize, right?
like pilgrims, and then you draw these little turkeys with your hands, right. And you see like an Indian on one side. That was what they were called, not First Nations or Native Americans when I was younger. So you see an Indian on one side, and then you see the white men, and everybody's all decked out, and they're all coming together and having this feast and sharing the plenty. And it just seems like such a lie. It seems as much of a lie as white people justifying slavery at any point, and kind of just telling their kids that they're just helping us out. Like as if, the Africans that came over at that time, they were like, oh, pick me. I'd like to come and help you with your cotton. I've got nothing else to do.
Right. Wow.
it just seems like such a lie. And for me to perpetuate a story of saying, I'm grateful that we have this meal that's made before us. Yes, I'm grateful for the people who made it. Yes, I'm absolutely grateful that we have this food, that we can eat in excess, that we're not
Right.
hungry. I'm
Right.
grateful for traditional yummy flavors of things that were indigenous to this area. But I am no longer willing to say I'm thankful that the Indians shared with us. I'd like to ask a huge amount of forgiveness
Hmm.
for all the things that we in our lineage just did.
Yeah. It's there's two things that has come up from your sharing there. Is one that um, we're both parents. We have the parent label, and so there is things that we say that are child appropriate, right? Stories that
Mm-hmm.
we tell kids because so they can understand
Mm-hmm.
what their little minds can understand. But at some point, it's like we watered down the truth so much that we now believe the watered down story as the truth. And so it's kind of, I don't want to bring anybody else into this, but, but, that's how we have all these, rituals and traditions because of things that we know that are not the truth, but it's been watered down in a quote unquote good story that we have to keep telling good stories because the kids, think about the children, right? And just go from there. So that was the one thing that came up. And the other thing is that, um, I guess the abundance of food. It's like on Thanksgiving. It's almost like you put the story together, right? Of the peoples coming together and sharing of their bounty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like now it's like rubbing it in your face that I have all the stuff, right?
Right.
It's like I took it and now I'm going to like eat it,
Yeah.
right? In front of you, right?
In front of you.
It just, I don't know why that image just came up to me. It's like overdoing it. It's excess. It's not gratefulness and gratitude of abundance and sharing. It is the obscene amount of food and things that we do on that day to recognize being thankful. I it
That
just it
we
just
need that
it just
much to be thankful. Crazy, right?
right. It just blew my mind. It's like, oh my God, that's disgusting, right? I don't know why that, it just
Mm-hmm.
like came over me that
Yeah. So
way.
having this honest thankfulness each and every time that we sit down, wow, we have food, but no longer willing to tell, there very well may have been Native American people that were, I mean, in their culture, they're very generous and kind and giving.
Right,
But what we're excluding from this discussion is how we
right,
came in with our guns and power and took, which was probably shown to us or generously given to us. We've excluded that part from the story and just pretended like it was shared and did a
right.
whole lot of
There is,
harm to these people who shared with us supposedly, and don't talk about
yeah,
the harm either, right?
it's I've never really thought of this before, but the thing that came to mind was a people will do, um, I guess, confusing things for their survival, right?
Sure.
So act as if, you know, I am sharing. It's like I'm sharing so you do not take, right? So
Mm.
you do not, destroy what I have. And really, it's just really messing with that story now. But I mean, it's just there is a sense within me that with a smile on my face, I will share with you, even though I know that any moment you have a gun to my head, um, about, I guess, my whole existence. And I am to be thankful, you know? And so I think that's a very difficult way. And I totally get how you were sharing that there is a forgiveness. There is a forgiveness prayer. There is a recognition that there's this level of complacency and complicitness, and there's and just outright lying, right? Right, that
Mhm.
I mean, it doesn't even, there's a part of the Thanksgiving story, and I will say, I said to my wife, because it's just us here, um when she says, "Oh, what do you want for Thanksgiving dinner?" And I said, "Is it still called Thanksgiving?" Right? And it's like, there's like so many things that have been renamed, and she, um, there, I don't know if you know that Friday is like National Native American Day or something. That's
Mm.
It's like, what, right? So it's like, yeah. So it's just,
That's
there's a,
simultaneous with Black Friday, just so I can be
yeah,
clear on that
yeah,
part too.
yeah. It's like, yeah, they just put a one more thing there. There's
Mhm.
nothing, there's nothing happening on Friday, right? But yeah, it is this place of really sitting and being thankful,
Mhm.
at a level that it's meaningful. And I'm not saying, I don't believe that I don't have a level of gratitude, or I don't have a level of gratefulness about,
Mhm.
my life, the people in my life, what I have, and all that other kind of stuff. But in some cases, there is a feeling that I have I have little awareness of, what I really have, if that makes sense.
Sure. I mean, if we were
It's
to really fill ourselves with all the gratitude of the abundance.
right. Hmm. And so I just want to, so I think that, having a life of gratitude, having a life of thankfulness, that it is not a day, it's a lifestyle. How
Mhm.
would that show up? Um, um, that's something, I think that's something that I'm up to kind of being with.
Mhm. So I don't know if I've really talked about it much on this show, but my background was that I lived for quite a while in Israel,
Yes.
and
Mhm. On a farm.
every every Friday night and Saturday we would have Shabbat. And Shabbat is not only just the time of rest, but it's like a lot of family meals and a lot of time together. So for me, every week was like a Thanksgiving,
Hmm.
and just having that time of together with really good food and just resting together, there was something very significant. And it was like, when I had to choose my favorite American holidays, I would usually say Thanksgiving because it had the least religious implications that I
Hmm.
have, like, we've talked about this before, that I have issues with all holidays being linked to religious affiliations,
Right.
more or less. But I would say Thanksgiving. And then as I was like, but wait a minute, the story we're telling about Thanksgiving, what I really loved about it was the togetherness, the quiet, the good food, and just the laughs that we would have when we were
Right.
together. So we would have that every week when I lived in Israel, with my kids and my stepkids and, whatever extended family came through. We were a big group. And so that was always really fun. But there's a difference when it's a lifestyle as opposed to a day that is based on a story that is
Right.
partially true, maybe like 20% true. Like, it's hard
Right.
to know how much of that is actually true, how much people suffered so that we could call it that and
Right.
pretend like it's a happy occurrence. I mean, there's something kind of similar to like Columbus Day and kind of making that go away as maybe calling, I mean, I'm not saying we need to rename Thanksgiving, but really get honest about what are we thankful for here?
Yeah, it's I think there, for people that say, why are you messing with the Thanksgiving story? That's, that's such a lovely story that we want to keep. But there are so many stories, or so much evidence that give us an indication that story is probably not the truth, right? There's just so much evidence. If we really looked, we could probably
I mean,
get
I think we can
closer.
look at yeah, sorry, the video cut in and out, and I think I was talking over you there. I apologize.
Okay, no, it's all right. Go ahead.
I will, sure, I'd hear a lot of kickback about this, but I would go so far to say a lot of the biblical texts and so forth, they're told from very specific points of view, and there's a lot of other points of view that were left out of those stories as well. I mean, women are not represented, people of color are often not represented, who is actually doing the work for a lot of those things is not discussed. They're just stories of glory that are kind of like very similar to this. And this, so it lines up with the rest of the stories that we're telling that essentially whitewash everything in our culture. But I kind of want to go into that point that we're talking about hidden gratitude when we were talking about the glass of water. Would you like to share that?
Yeah, when we were talking and I was looking at, it's like, grateful for, clean water. Am I really grateful for clean water? And recognizing that on a level, I really don't know what it means to have clean water or not have clean water.
Yeah.
And so really my gratefulness, it feels like I'm grateful that I am not, I don't live in Flint right now, or I don't live in a third world country, type of thing. And I don't think that's really, gratefulness. That's not, it is grateful that I don't have something versus really having the level of appreciation what I have. And I think that shows up more than I would like to admit.
Yeah. You said a sentence that really kind of triggered something within me. You said, I'm thankful it's not me. As you were talking about that you didn't have to have that familiarity of, I'm grateful for my health is something very different than I'm grateful I don't have cancer,
Right.
That's not me. I don't have to suffer from that. And I can't fully, I've even noticed that my levels of empathy, and consider myself a super empathetic person, but you see someone hurting and you feel for them and you're really concerned about them, but there is a level of forgetting even from the suffering. Like you
Mm,
stub your toe and it hurts so bad in that moment, but
right.
like a month later when your kid stubs their toe, you're like, oh, I remember that hurting, but you can't actually fully embody what it hurt,
Right.
like what that feeling is. Even if you have the empathy of like, that looks really bad, you
Right.
can't feel it in your body. It kind of like decreases over time.
Wow.
And it's not comparative suffering, but it's just really being able to empathize and thinking about, I'm thankful it's not me. And the
Mm,
first thing, I mean, I've talked about it here on the show before, and I live in Atlanta. We have a lot of homeless people here. And, you know, it's a curious, maybe it's my privilege to call it a curious phenomenon.
mm,
But it's like, besides their humanity,
right.
which I recognize, it's like, what happened in your life that you got to this place?
Right.
You know, we're driving by a bus stop today and there's a guy laying on the ground. And, you know, I'm like thinking, is he sleeping or is he dead? Like,
Right.
really not quite sure.
Right.
When I see people lining up for like a halfway house to be able to sleep there and hear stories of like people stealing shoes if they sleep with their shoes off. These are things that I've never even embodied to have a little bit of empathy. I can
Mm,
understand them,
mm,
but I've been so fortunate and so thankful that it's not me.
mm. Yeah. Wow.
Thankful I don't
I
have to panhandle, right? Like other
yeah.
things that they're methods of survival.
Yeah. There's I was working on a TEDx talk, a submission. And you know, it was around the labels conversation, and I was talking about what I called, you know, um, homeless is not a person; it's a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, you know, I guess the the committee that was helping me put it together didn't like my use of lifestyle because you know they were thinking that you know when you think of lifestyle that's a choice, you know, there's a choice to that. But here's the connection that I have and that I tried to make within the talk is that we are programmed to question when how people get to where they are. So
Mm-hmm.
if someone is on the street and then you find out they lived in a big house, that's like um,
There's a story
yeah, a
there, right?
comeback story, right? It's a
Yeah.
comeback story. They kind of do that, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and that's wonderful. However, but if you know of that, if you have a relationship with that person and know that they were in a big house and now they're living on the street, now it's like, what the hell did you do to cause, you know,
Or what happened to
this or
you?
what happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there is this. I think it's more about our inability to govern each other and to care each other in a way that um, feeling that no one in our society or our community should have to make that choice to live on the streets. Period.
Is it a choice?
I look. I think. Um, I think yes. I'll just say yes.
Mm-hmm. I don't
Look,
know.
I think this is what I believe, and I think this is why the thankfulness of you know the honest thankfulness. I'm thankful that even with my horrible choices and decisions, I'm not on the street. You know, that's I mean that's you know that's like real talk right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, and it's like there I I had a conversation with my wife that said that the only way that we would be on the streets, if we were too prideful to tell anybody that we're connected to.
Because everybody would show up to love you.
Right. And so I don't know what choices and that people make to cause them to be where they are, but a choice was made. A choice was made not to call. A choice was made not to,
I feel like a
or to
series
do
of
something. A
choices.
series, absolutely.
Yeah, that I
And
can
and
agree with.
and so it is not. I don't believe that someone says I choose to be homeless. Period. That's
No, it was
that's
like a
it.
series
Right.
of
There's
choices that led to what you're calling the choice to be homeless, or the
right.
evidential situation that a lot of
Right.
addicts, nobody wants to deal with them right at that point.
Right. And so being um being in that situation, can you be thankful for being alive? Right?
Mm-hmm.
There is a part of me, and it's, call it privilege, call it whatever. I don't know what other kind of um, thing you want to put onto it. There is this feeling that there's a quality of life that I believe that I deserve or that I should have. And if I don't have that, my life is meaningless, right? It
Mm-hmm.
has no meaning, and I would rather not be around in it if this is, instead of being thankful for my life, my ability to breathe and exist, within this. And so I think from an honest talk of thankfulness,
Mm-hmm.
if I don't think of my humanity as the last step before I do something drastic, to like end my life, right? And that just got dark very quick, and kind of wait until that. But it is because of my humanity, then I have access to everything else. If I'm at least thankful that I'm a human being,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm, and everything that means, that I can show up fully, within this. However, if I'm on the streets, or if I'm in, you know, a big house, or on a farm, however I'm living, the fact that I am alive is a good thing, and be thankful. If I get to a place where I can be that, then I can have honest thankfulness. I think, and I think we've we've been conditioned, or something, or it feels like it's in reverse, that there is this value placed on not just our money and our stuff and all that kind of stuff, but lives. I've made controversial statements, around mass shootings and abortion and all that other kind of stuff. And it's like, look, until we recognize that we're okay how some people die, how some people are not here, and not say that, hey, we're not going to do anything as a society to like snuff out anybody, if it's capital punishment or any type of thing. Until we get that place, we are going to really experience this level of loss of life, because we value life differently. And until there's a level of, like I said, baseline thankfulness of our existence, we will really kind of tell ourselves all type of stories, and cause all type of harm for each other.
Hmm. I hear what you're saying. I'm hearing you.
Mm.
And I think the basic gratitude for our existence is a powerful picture. Um, that often gets lost and
Mm,
gets jaded in the things that we're supposed to be grateful for,
yes.
thereby creating a dichotomy of if we don't have those things, that our life is rough.
Mm,
We feel guilty, we feel like a failure. And what about just the sheer gratefulness of being
mm,
alive in this moment? I am thankful very often for the things by discernment, of what you
mm,
had said, of like, I'm thankful that I wake up and I don't feel A, B, and C. I'm thankful that, a lot of times it's easier for me to relate by comparative suffering
mm,
or comparative success. I think it's the
mm.
human condition to
Right.
compare, and I think that a lot of what's being kind of pressured on us is based on comparative thinking of and trying to bridge that. Um, I just, we had talked about this before. I'm just not really feeling that I want to take part in holidays that are telling stories that are
Mm,
comparative in nature.
right. Oh,
I need
yes.
competitive, demanding activities, demanding ways of me saying things to be in the right. This is the way we pray, as opposed to what's on your heart. Those are things that I'm just not willing to be a part of anymore, and really want to just kind of fall into that place of just recognizing my humanity, as you're saying, and the value of, we chose to be alive at this specific time in history
Right.
to do something different. What can we do? Sometimes
Right.
does it have to be something grandiose, or can we just be grateful for the fact that we're alive and we're able to
Mm,
rest? Because I feel like
right.
rest is something that's like, I think it pushes a lot of buttons for people around
Right.
like the topic of lazy.
Hmm.
Can
Yeah,
we
we've
be
talked about
grateful
that.
for rest? Yeah.
Hmm.
How can I show up fully, and how can I be of best service? Is that me being able to rest? How can I be grateful for that, even if someone else says, like, we're out here working away and you're, generally I'm the one who's working away while other
Right.
people are resting. Maybe I'm saying this for myself as much as anyone else, but um, yeah, just the beingness of however we are. Are we lovable just when we're hanging out on the couch not doing anything?
Right. There is what just came up for me. You know, Thanksgiving as a child and sometimes as an adult when I when I wasn't fully present within the day, right? Because I was somewhere else other than where the action was, right? Because I would be in the way, right? But
Right.
that moment around the table when there was, everybody tells one thing that they're thankful for. Um, and, that was a tradition. It was something that, you knew what was coming, right? Like I said, as a child and even as an adult. But many times within that moment, I was like lost for words. I was like, I can't think of anything that what the heck, right? It's like, um, it is and I don't know if it was comparative to what someone said before me or,
Mhm.
or what someone said last year, or something, or you didn't want to say the same thing that they said. If they said, oh, I'm thankful for my family. Okay, next, your turn, right?
Mhm.
Um, but it never felt, even when at the head of the table and, asking, it never felt like a serious inquiry.
Mm.
What are you thankful for?
Hmm. You know what's
And it
coming up for me? Oh, go ahead.
what's coming up? No, I just, and it's just like, and I think because there wasn't a level of honesty in that moment. And I
Yeah.
think that's right, you know.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, I'm thankful that I have created a family
Hmm.
that allows me to show up and no longer tell stories around what I need to be thankful for
Hmm.
because it's
Wow.
required of me. I'm thankful that I can be honest and I could just be me. And
Wow.
that to me is like a huge gift that I can just have a feeling and maybe not even have words to put to it, but it's just good. That's
Right.
the safety.
Right. And that's the healing. That's the healing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
when you can show up as yourself and really just um, have people acknowledge that instead of, you know, um, the here, I'll tell you what you need to be thankful for, right?
Right. Or what's
Give every,
expected of you.
right. Get,
Mm-hmm.
it's, or you, I mean, because I can't remember what I said, but I can remember one time when I was a kid saying something and I was asked to say something else. It's like, that's not correct. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I am sure there is something better than that you are thankful for. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, okay, right? Keep on going. Um, the one thing that I want to bring in this conversation, I mean, we might have, I don't know how long, we're going to go tonight or anything, but the one thing that I want to bring in is that how Thanksgiving is showing up this year, and the anxiety, the confusion, the loneliness, the fear, all the other things that even even within I guess not an honest understanding of the day, right, the day of Thanksgiving, and just kind of the busyness of that and how that showed up for many of us over the years, having that taken away, taking this gathering on a level. There's the song, over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house, right? Or there's not that traveling, you know a part of it. It's like discouraged, and even discouraged to gather at any. I've heard um you know dire predictions if people like come together, type of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And so how can we be thankful that we're alive, right? And have a level of thankfulness that we're in November of 2020, and still allow it to show up differently,
Mm-hmm.
and with all of this other stuff that's in the foreground.
Yeah. Um, I think this is an introvert's holiday paradise.
Right.
uh, and I'm not entirely trying to make light of what you're saying, um, but I think that for a lot of people, their stress this year is that they're lonely,
Hmm.
and that in years past it would be a time when they could at least meet with people they felt good about, and then for other people, holidays were a nightmare where they'd sit around the Thanksgiving table. People would be drinking and conversations would go awry and people would get hurt.
Right.
So there's like the benefit of not having to have those uncomfortable, and I'm not talking about healing conversations, I'm talking
Right.
about just the uncomfortable, I'm going to stab you kind of conversations.
Right.
So there's a lot of people who are probably thankful that they don't have to have those right now.
Right.
And then, I feel like it's it's a lifestyle thing of how do I create gratitude on the daily if I'm generally like on my own,
Mm,
then how do I bring this into my everyday life? But I
mm,
think some people are really asking that question. How can I look at this differently?
mm. Yeah, I mean, we have adult children, so there was, a plan, earlier in the month of, us going over to a friend's house and with their family and everything. So there's, I taken our empty nest over there. So the two of us going over there and being a part of their thing. And then they decided not to do that. And so it's just going to be us, us here. And we're gonna zoom in our kids from Portland, and and have and just have a conversation and do all that. But there is a level of, for me, there was a thankfulness that I have someone
Hmm.
that I'm not alone.
For sure.
And so I wanted to, within this conversation, when we added honest, I want to be thankful, not that I'm not alone, but that I'm with my wife, right there,
Hmm.
that, and that is, I don't want to say that's difficult. I don't want that to say that, but it's like the easiest thing is that there was this comparative that, okay, it's not going to be busy, it's just going to be us, it's kind of, I probably won't eat as much or whatever. I'm thinking of how this is showing up differently for myself. But then it was like, why don't I just enjoy the time that I have to spend with my wife during this time? Maybe that's what this moment is. This
Hmm.
this you know doing COVID, throughout the year, we spent a lot more time with our families. We realized that even from working from home, there were still times that I was out, not engaged with what was going on in my family's life, and in my wife's life, right?
Hmm.
And so we were, you know, just us, but still missing each other and all that other kind of stuff. But so now there is this, more conversations and more kind of, things that it's like, huh, okay, that's annoying. But, I guess on both sides, right? On both sides, right? But,
Hmm.
um, but we've kind of worked through, but it's like now this holiday is really inviting us to really, I think, and to take it up another notch. It's almost like, I want to say it's like a romantic Thanksgiving or something, right? Like, but there is this level of gratitude, this level of appreciation that is not this corporate thing, right? This kind of grandiose around the table making people do stuff, right? But it's
Required. Yeah.
right, what's required, right? It's more of, how can I be with my family or the people that are here on just as they are.
Right. Right.
Mm,
Mm. I feel like it's really just nurture. The tagline for my business is nurture the sacred within, and that this
mm,
to me feels like just such an opportunity to nurture the sacred within, to really see value and find the sacred in
mm,
the simplicity of it. If if you do create simplicity around it, should you choose, whoever may choose, right?
right,
Or do we choose to perpetuate this stress because the stress is also a part of the holiday?
right. Mm, yeah. We can easily let all that go. I think that's the biggest lesson that I've gotten from this year is that there are things that have been stressing me out that I don't need to keep doing. Right? I mean, it's like there
Right.
was, it was for some reason, it was just like, okay, that's just what I do. That's just how it is and everything like that. And it's like, oh, okay. So I don't have to be stressed right now. I don't have to, okay, now I can do this. So now the invitation is taking the stress out of the holiday. What
Mhm.
does that look like? How will that look?
Mm.
And I'm fascinated, the fact that how most of the times with change, I believe in transformation and change and all that other kind of stuff. But I think most of the times we don't even, I'll speak for myself. I don't get access to transformation or change unless I'm forced to, even
Mm.
if I think it's a good idea. Right. Right.
Yeah,
It's
like
like,
we don't make change in comfort. It's always uncomfortable.
right. And it's like, like I said, even with all the features and benefits, right? Like, it's still, I'm going to keep doing this until
Hmm.
I'm not permitted to do this, right?
Yeah,
Even if it's causing me grief and stress and pain.
yeah.
Mm.
So I kind of wanted to share, we often will you pull your cards, I pull my cards, and we kind of do stuff,
Show our cards, right?
yeah, to kind of like narrow down what we're going to talk about, unless if it was a kind of like a hot topic that had been sitting with us all week or something. But I don't think that the cards that I pulled were ironic. They seem actually. I pulled these cards after we decided the topic of what needed to show up to support that. So I just kind of wanted to share those.
Absolutely.
And these are really beautiful journal prompts for anyone who might be watching, just to really dig deeper into your own honest form of thankfulness and how it would show up. And not ironically, the card that showed up, how do I get it centered, is
Sure.
health. Allow me, divine, to be tender and accepting of my body, no matter what ailments I may have. May I always know it's doing the best that it can. Help me to be a loving ally and friend to this sacred form. So for me, that is really just acknowledging the thankfulness of being, the thankfulness of this vehicle that I get to use during this lifetime to just carry me through, that it's healthy, and that I can always be thankful. I mean, I was talking with a friend about, like, I had that accident in February, and it's kind of been making me bonkers. I'm at the chiropractor like 2 and 3 times a week, and just like doing all this natural healing modalities, and I'm still dealing with pain. And she was like, "You're so lucky."
Hmm.
And I knew exactly what she was saying at that time, but it was like, yo, don't be complaining. You didn't get killed in that accident. You're so lucky to be alive to feel that pain and just to realize that your body is coping and healing right now. Just
Wow.
like, take the time. You're so lucky. You're here. You're present. And the second card I pulled was from another deck, and it is the word blessed. And this, I love this deck. Wait a minute, let me get into the frame.
Yeah, there
Also,
it is.
because it includes people of color, but I also love that something blessed and angelic and wonderful could be a person of color, which is a disturbing thing to me to realize how frequently it's just a part of our culture that
Mm.
so many angelic beings and fairies and other things are depicted as being only white.
Right.
Um, and she just really talks about, I mean, this card is really beautiful. It also has, like, in this bubble she's sitting on, there's a little face of, like, which to me represents kind of like the divine.
Oh, wow.
And it's kind of having a little bit of a glare, and I apologize for that. But just how much we're just blessed, and we're sitting within the divine. The divine is of us, it is within us, it is around us, and how much we can have windfalls of grace and dropping the pride, for a lot of people who are in less fortunate situations. that there are a lot of people who do want to help who don't know how to help.
Right.
This is a consistent theme that I feel personally. I do want to help. I don't like things that I'm seeing, and I don't know the right way to help. Oh, right way is the wrong verbiage here, but like
Got it. How you
homeless
can do it. Right.
person, like, do I bring food to them? And that's really helpful because the money, I've seen them walk from my car to their drug dealer with the contribution that I've just given them, and they come out with a packet, and I'm like, oh shit, I just supported their drug habit. Instead of how do you do it in a way that's actually going to be supporting health,
Right.
and so that they can really accept this blessing in a way,
Hmm.
also realizing that in their humanity they're just being, and they're doing the best that they can.
Hmm.
And even if it doesn't look clear to me what's going on there, I think that there's a lot of blessings available to all of us. And when we
Yeah.
lean into trusting, the divine within us, around us, beyond us, just that
Hmm.
beautiful bubble we can sit and rest in the
Right.
divine blessing us. I think it's a really beautiful message.
Hmm.
Do you want to share your card that you pulled?
Yeah. I pulled an I am card. Um, and it's I am lovable. So from the U card. So it's Will the turtle. And it's a U card. But yeah, and just recognizing that within what I'm doing and not doing, right? That my worthiness or my lovability, has nothing to do with that. I am just lovable.
Mm-hmm.
And I can, what would happen if I show up as lovable, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the invitation. And I think the more that we, within the conversation of honest thankfulness, you know, I am thankful that I am loved on a level that I don't fully understand.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's so true for all of us. Like,
And and it's just there's so much love that I take for granted, right?
mm,
Um, and and I just don't want to live in that place. I don't want to, have that as a default. I don't want to say that, oh, you know, you're my wife, you should love me. You're my, my kid. You're my mom. You're,
mhm,
whatever you should, and this is how it should be. It's just no.
mhm,
Um, and so like I said, I'm just thankful,
mhm,
um, you know, for that. And
mhm.
the love is so powerful. I guess, because I have embraced that, love conquers all, right? And the
Mhm.
only way that love conquers all, if we allow love to conquer all, right? Right, to
There's surrender there, right?
right.
Mhm.
We too often, and look, I'm speaking for other people again. Too often, I want to put love on different situations. Right? It's like, okay, this needs a little more love. This needs some
Mhm.
love. This needs some love. It's like, no, it all needs love, right? It all let love show up in
And
all
it's
of
not a
its
zero-sum game, right? Like that you have to
right,
divide it and you're going to be done. If you actually give someone too much, then there's not going to be enough left for this. I mean,
right. And so when we look at our health and we look at being blessed, from the cards that you've picked,
mhm,
it's just all there. Just embrace the love. And I think even in our loneliness and disappointments and confusion, around holidays and this holiday in
mhm,
particular, we're still all lovable.
mhm.
Uh,
I wanted to take a second and I can remember when I was married, I had a discussion with my husband, because even then I was having like a lot of deliberation about around the stress of holidays and what do they actually mean and what do they represent, and what about the things that we say or are supposed to say or that are in liturgy, or things that we're repeating generation after generation. Do they still have meaning? Are they transforming? Are they evolving with us? And I can remember saying to him, I just really want to create our own family's holidays
Mm,
and just name them something else
mm,
that is meaningful to us. And that didn't fly with him so well, but but on my own, since we split, I've really tried to create rituals in our home of things that were meaningful. And I did it when we were together too. I mean, I'm not in any way being negative towards him. It was just, he was a product of what he grew up with as well. And this book called to me, I keep forgetting to put it in the right direction. A Spiritual Living Press bestseller, Real Life Rituals, Carol
mm,
Huntley. And I mean, I have probably 15 books about rituals, creating meaningful rituals. And I would like to put this out as an offering for anyone who's listening who would like to create a transformational experience in their
mm.
own life and wants to sit with this conversation about having honest thankfulness and creating something different in their own life. To feel free to make a comment, and we would love to speak to that in the future about creating meaningful ritual in your life, or
Right.
other ways that thankfulness can show up that we might not have talked about that came to you as you were listening to us. Anything that feels really meaningful that we've talked about, and you have something that you'd like to chime in, we would love to hear your voice, your thoughts, your opinions, your ideas. And I'm not just saying that as like some sort of a plug here. Like, we're doing
Right.
this not to hear ourselves talk, but so that
Right.
hopefully these conversations will be meaningful to people in such a way that it wasn't just like a nice thing to listen to for an hour on a Thursday evening, rather something that you're like, I really want to change how we're addressing how we sit together for a meal, or
Right.
how we pray, or if we pray, or how we, if we write things down, or other things of that nature. How do we want to
Mm,
do this as a family? Are there things as a couple that we can come to as an agreement? Are there things as parents and children that we want to do?
mm.
Like, I no longer want to be a part of X, Y, and Z because it feels like this. And to be able to say, I'm thankful for this part, but I don't
Right.
want to take part in that part.
Right.
So that is an invitation that I believe that I'm extending for both of us, or from both
Right.
of us, to the listeners.
Yeah, that's a wonderful invitation. I'm wholeheartedly on board. What we have tried for our our adult children, that we see them and they see us in the middle of the holidays, in the middle of Thanksgiving and Christmas. We kind of come together. We haven't named it anything, but it's been something around that time where we get together, and um, it's just a great time. There's just like no pressure of like
Mhm.
the holidays, of like Christmas, right? Or
Mhm.
Thanksgiving. There's just no pressure. It's just they're in town, or mom and dad are in town, the rents as they call us, which but and 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 we're just enjoying each other's company. I'm sure there's Uno involved and all that other kind of stuff.
I love it.
So, but
That's a tradition too, right?
right, and it's just one of those things that we could have easily said, no, we're going to do it over Christmas, or we're going to do it. This is the time that is going to happen. And it took one of our children to say, hey, um, holidays are stressful for me. And it's like, really? The dad was like, what do you do? Right. It's like, you just show up and eat. How is it stressful for you?
Right.
Um, but, um, but listening to them and really hearing their heart that they wanted to come together as a family and just enjoy each other without any stresses, it kind of opened up some things. So I really
Mhm.
appreciate the offer,
Yeah.
to really have, the audience share what's coming up for them, what they're doing, or what they would like to create. I mean, because there's um, the only way that we can really have the honest thankfulness and gratitude if we get real,
Mhm.
and if and it's some cases that I want to be able to give not just my ancestors, but the my oppressors, the oppressors of my
Mhm.
ancestors, some grace in that um, they only did what they knew, you know, with the
Mm.
information that they have.
And we have some different information available to us now.
Right. And it's like, so it's not this blanket one size fits all. This is how everybody showed up and this is how it,
Mhm.
it was. And so the more that I will acknowledge, um, I guess the pain, the disappointments, all the other thing, the history of, and not create some whitewash,
Mhm.
um, kind of, you know, making everybody, not making everybody, but making um, people look good, type
Yeah.
of thing. Then we can really be in a place of healing and
Mhm.
thankfulness, because who
For
doesn't
sure.
want to be there? Who doesn't want
Mhm.
to be there? So,
Absolutely. Beautiful.
uh,
Thank you
blessing, my
all
friend.
for hanging in with us through this conversation. We definitely want to bless you and thank you and wish
Mm,
you and your families or whomever you're with that feels good, that it will feel good, that you'll choose to have something that feels good, that feels healthy, that feels blessed, and
mm,
that you can approach your gratitude, your thankfulness, your the grace that has been extended to us with just a radical amount of honesty that will
mm,
shape the way that you do holidays and the way that you gather, and really
mm,
having that appreciation now when we will be able to gather in different ways and be able to bring those traditions to what will be the new traditions to the newer
mm.
traditions of
Right,
whatever may be shaped from this. Thank you so
right.
much.
Thank you. Blessings.
Ciao.